I don't know what happened there. Hi, nice to meet you.
Guys, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate
Oh, no,
it.
no, oh my God. I'm so happy to do this. I know we probably have a little less time than we would have, which is unfortunate. Whoop.
Sorry, yeah, just trying to move it a little higher and dropping the phone. Yeah. Is there any way you can move that up a little? So great to see you, and I'm really excited to talk.
Yeah, me too. Hi. Oh God, okay, so I'm just going to start because I'm sure we don't have all that much time. But I was just reading about you, and I know, like, I knew the basics, but I was kind of brushing up on your biography. And for anyone who doesn't know, this is Mikie Sherrill, representative in New Jersey's, I think it is what, 11th
11,
district,
yeah, that's right.
right? And I think you are out of Montclair, which is a place I used to have a good friend who lived in Montclair. It's so nice there. And Mikie is, first of all, just like makes the rest of us look incredible. Well, okay, let's just say that reading your resume, I was like, oh my God, that you're the kind of person who makes the rest of us look bad, but in the nicest way. And now she is running for New Jersey governor, which is really exciting, a very important race. So I am very excited to have you here. I want people to meet you. I want people to know about this election because we talk a lot about the Virginia elections in November, but the New Jersey elections are just as important. And we're going to talk about why in a second. But I know this is your profile, but I'm going to introduce you first, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Tell people a bit of, yeah?
that
Okay.
sounds great.
Okay, good. So, first of all, I'm reading because I want to make sure I get everything right. But Mikie is, or Representative Sherrill, I should say. Sorry, not to be too informal right
Oh,
away.
please. Mikey's
Okay,
great.
Mikie, U.S. naval helicopter pilot and I believe you were in the Navy for 9 years and rose to the rank of lieutenant or maybe even higher. Lieutenant?
Yep.
Okay, that is amazing. And as if that's not enough, you also were a prosecutor, and you were, where is this? You were in the
I was in the Newark office in New
yes,
Jersey.
thank you. And now you've been in Congress. You won in 2018 for the first time. You flipped a district that had been Republican for a very long time. And I think we had the biggest swing in that district in 2018 of any seat in the country. Is that right?
Yeah, the biggest red to blue swing. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. So, which is really exciting. You ran a great campaign and you've been winning ever since. I don't know. This is just so for people who are meeting you for the first time. First of all, your resume is incredibly impressive. I know you're also married. You have 4 kids. You're a mom, which I think is a big bonus in Congress. Um, I think at this moment in time, people who have familiarity with the armed services is a big bonus. You're also a Russia expert, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All things that are just like big plus marks in my book. Um and you just seem like a really amazing and interesting person. So tell people you're doing a great job in Congress. I know that you were at the forefront of the movement to impeach Trump and you've done really great things, but tell people what made you decide at this moment that you're going to jump from Congress into a gubernatorial race. And this is the primary, by the way, which I want you to win. So I'm already telling people. But anyway, so go on.
Wow. After an intro like that, I almost just want to end the call now. I know.
Well, with our technical luck, it may happen. So be careful what you wish for.
Guys, that was it. Um, but yeah, no, it's I did. I was just thinking about that red to blue flip. We had just such great energy on the ground. There were groups like NJ11 for Change who had just asked the person in office for a town hall. He wouldn't do it. He was not representing people. And so I said, I'm going to run for this 11th district. And it was a district that Michael Moore had actually run a ficus tree against the incumbent because he said, Democrat, it won't even matter. This guy's unbeatable. It won't make a difference. So I could see just with what was going on the ground and speaking to so many of the grassroots groups that something different was going on. And I decided to run for Congress. And, most people said, don't. That's
Right.
bad. I see it as just unwinnable. But then because of just really, I think, getting out there and listening to people and having that grassroots energy and people advocating for what they wanted to see in the change. And I don't know how many people right now remember that feeling of 2018, that we came together and we could make change possible. And then we did.
Yeah.
And now I think so many of us get to this point and are like, how are we back at square one? Actually, how are things
Yeah.
worse?
Yeah, for sure.
In such a powerful way.
Yeah.
And I think to some extent to really address what's going on right now, we need the states. We need the governor's offices. We need great governors across the country to come together because we have seen such a unbelievable usurpation of power here in Washington in many illegal ways. And we're fighting left, right, and center. And those fights, I think we're going to prevail. But we need to prevail in some places today. We need to build the base of support to take on this administration. And I think we do it in the states. And I think we do it in New Jersey. And I'll tell you why New Jersey is so important.
Yeah.
Virginia has been trending blue, but sadly, New Jersey hasn't been. Jersey's been trending, 10 points to the right in the last election, one of the worst, most slippage in the country, except for New York. So we can prove here that we've got the pathway to stop that and to really turn the ship around. In other words, this is the opportunity to weigh in on what we think of what's going on in Washington. We can build such a juggernaut of a campaign, like I was talking about, what we were able to build in 2018, that I think we can swing this state to the left, really make up all of that slippage and some. Yeah. That we are really showing that we are pushing back against what's happening in Washington, and we are charting a different path forward. And as a governor, I'm going to take the state in a different direction and really drive forward not just the resistance, which all of us have been a part of for years now, but also the future. We're not just going to resist what's going on, but we're actually going to serve people. We're going to deliver for people in a way that they are not seeing coming from anywhere else. And I think that challenge is something that New Jersey is almost uniquely ready to take on.
Yeah, yeah. And we've seen so much. I mean, we've watched as governors, along with state attorneys general, have really stepped up to the forefront of this fight. And you've got a massive megaphone. You are in an executive position. You have huge powers because our country is sort of founded on the idea that states have a lot of power. And yeah, it's a great position for someone who is strong and forceful, fighting for democracy to be in. So it would be very exciting to see this happen. Now, I want to talk about this for a second. The fact that New Jersey moves so far to the right. Why do you think that is? And what would you do to sort of coax those people back?
So you're not going to be surprised to hear I've been thinking a lot about this.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I go to bed at night thinking, what about this? What about this aspect? What about? So many of us have been sort of focused, I think, on the broader strokes, the loss of economic power of the Midwest when we think about Trump and how he came to power. But I will tell you what 2024 showed, if nothing else, is that, we in some of these states have got to get our what together. Yeah. I mean, we focus on the right people. We care about the right people. We want to serve the right people, but we're not getting the right results. Right. And in some cases, it's because we tried an innovative thing and it didn't work and we never changed course. And in some cases, it's because, we just aren't willing to take on the challenge. There's structural challenges. There's tough challenges at taking on the status quo because there's entrenched interest. And I think it's easy. It's really a lot easier not to. It's easier to put Band-Aids on things than to actually structurally change things. And so, for example, we have a housing crisis in New Jersey. The cost of homes has gone up 50% in the last 5 years. A lot of people who can't afford homes are moving into the rental market. So we have a homelessness problem with seniors. We have seniors who've gone back to work because they can't still afford their rent. We have, I was talking to one young woman who's paying 70% of her income in rent.
Yeah.
We consider somebody paying over 30% of their income in rent to be rent poor. 70%, she's never going to get ahead. I mean, there's no. You can never get ahead. No. And that's what we're seeing. And so we have got to build houses. Yeah, I'm going to take on these absentee landlords that are in Florida that are, driving down the cost of the neighborhood and not keeping up their properties and people aren't living the way they should. And I'm going to take on those landlords that have colluded, that are driving up rental prices. But that's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't want to address it because, there's a lot of really, good Democrats who don't really want the houses in their neighborhood.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We've got to figure out where we're going to build then.
Yeah.
And let's, we look at like Trenton, New Jersey in its heyday had about 190,000 people. Now by the census, it says it has 80,000.
Wow.
It has great transit. It has a great location. It's got great jobs. So let's have a plan to revitalize Trenton. And when I say this, I just think the electorate is just so used to empty promises. You would think I was promising to build houses on the moon. Like, guys, we can build houses. Do this. I know I can do this. I know I can do this. So the kind of we have to both take on, some of these people resisting some of the change we have to make, and we also have to come up with innovative ways of building that change and really driving in how to do it. And a lot of this stuff, it's most people know what the answer is and what the solution is. It's just sometimes hard and challenging to take on the status quo.
Well, so this is really interesting. You wrote this great op-ed, which I'll when I post this in my feed, I will drop it in the comments. It's really good. And one of the things you said, and I'm gonna read this. You said Trump won in large part because people hated the status quo. Voters knew he might tear it all down in potentially devastating and destructive ways, but they still picked Trump's chaos over a Democratic Party that, in their minds, seemed threatened by the thought of changing anything at all. And just today, I was on a Navigator polling call, and they were talking about one of the polls they did, which is about how badly Americans crave change. And sort of saying pretty much exactly what you said, which is just that we will choose anybody who says they're going to change things. Like we want change so badly that if you frame a message as an anti-status quo message, it will overperform by like 35 points. The same thing being said without the status quo, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that people are desperate to go against the status quo, as you are saying in your op-ed, that they are tired of Democrats who seem to be protecting like the old ways, and they want people who are saying those did not work. We absolutely do need change. We need positive change. We need progressive change, but we've got to just stop hanging on to these old things which have not worked. Like our healthcare system is broken, our housing system is definitely broken. And that's sort of what I hear you saying is like, these systems are broken. And we don't want to tear it all down the way Trump does. We want to rebuild, but we have to first acknowledge that what we're doing is not working. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, that's really interesting because that's exactly what I'm feeling on the ground. So I guess, some polling's working out there because that's right to me from the conversations I've had. Got caught in the crosshairs of two things. I think the first problem that we didn't address exactly right, although I see how we got there and I have sympathy for it, is this idea that we were fighting Trump. And because Trump was representing this change that in some ways was tearing apart the very fabric of institutions we built to protect rights and freedoms, we're against it. But then when we said, and I think maybe I said it sometimes, I'm an institutionalist. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. No. Yeah.
It sounds so like I'm just going to keep everything in place. I might as well say like, let's go for bureaucracy and red tape, right? Like that's not the right place to be. But again, I have sympathy because when I think of this, having, worked hard on different programs to, get better outcomes in our criminal justice system, or make sure we're making things more fair for women, military service members. And, we built these things because the system wasn't working. So we built these things to change the system, but, and not the right messaging. And then the other problem that we got caught in the crosshairs of is I just think that we've ridden on some of our glory days past their prime, and we have a strategy to change or to take on the future. And we kept looking backwards. And by that, I mean things like even New Deal legislation, Roe, Voting Rights Act. We have been losing ground on those seminal things. Democratic Party that were really the base of some of the things many of us believed in and believe in. And so instead of, we've just been kind of trying to protect them as they were just, we were losing ground, and we saw what was coming, but we didn't have a forward looking. We kept saying it was good. This was good. We should keep this. We should. And again, sure, but that wasn't one of the options on the table. It wasn't like, keep the New Deal, get rid of the New Deal, or that keep it wasn't sort of that keep Roe, get rid of new plan. You basically only had get rid of Roe and new plan because, we couldn't keep it. Right. So you have to have this forward vision. And those, I think, two things we sort of just got caught in the crosshairs of. And I think it all came to a head, and now we know where we're at. And now we've got to say, okay, look, I care deeply about rights and freedoms. I care deeply about opportunity. We've lost some ground in these areas. We're not going to get it back just the way we had it. So what's the future look like? Right. And how do we drive a better strategy? Because if we don't come up with a strategy, we're just going to see it all torn down with no better plan. And that's not what I'm going to, I just find that unacceptable. So.
Right. Well, and I think people are hungry for a better vision. I mean, you see Pete Buttigieg go viral for just talking about, like, here's what I want my day to look like. I want to be able to leave the house and have good transportation. Like, it's not rocket science, but people are so hungry for someone just talking about a decent future where things work.
Beginning of this book where it was talking about, getting up and having clean drinking water and, clean power. And it sounded like a sci-fi novel.
Yeah.
Which, right. Yeah. I mean, technologies aren't made up things, right? And I'm looking, and we have this, and I think, something that I sometimes in a snarky way say, our vision of clean power as Democrats for too long was, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, but if you're a good person, you'll do it. Right. And so we are, where clean power is cheaper.
Yeah.
It's like nobody believes. I go out in New Jersey and I say, guess who the biggest user of solar power is? Texas.
Yeah, Texas and Florida. Yeah.
Yeah. They're doing it because it's cheap. And then everybody, oh, it must be really cheap.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need that proof point out there. So, we need these innovations. The future is now. We need to grasp it and be the party of the future, and make sure that we're moving forward in a way that's going to create this opportunity for everyone. That people can actually sit down and say, I see myself in that. I'm not going to get behind in that one.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, so I'm going to let you go soon because I know we're over our time, but I saw somebody ask in the chat, and I think it's a good question because you're in a primary. Why you and not another Democratic candidate? Why is Mikie Sherrill the exact right one for this moment? I definitely have some thoughts with the military and the Russia and the, prosecutor and all that, but I think you have more thoughts being you. So tell us, why you?
Well, I think we need a different kind of candidate, because for all the things I've laid out, if we are going to go forward in a different way in New Jersey, then we need somebody who's going to approach it in a different way. And I feel like there's so much of my background, whether it's serving all over the world and having this deep appreciation of why our rights and freedoms matter. I think a lot of people here maybe take them for granted, but I've served in places where people get picked up with no charges and disappeared for speaking out against the government. So when I see that happening in my own country, I know where this is headed. This doesn't stop with undocumented people or green card holders. This goes very bad very quickly. So I think having that background, I think having kids and knowing not only how deeply I want the future to be better for them, but how hard it's been and where those fault lines are for families right now. And it's not just COVID, it's media. It's, how as a parent are you navigating this with your kid? I also think, though, it's this understanding that, as I've watched the systems in New Jersey, there's better ways of doing things out there. And so many of the people running in this race right now, all they know is how they've always done it. They come up through a system and they've done it this way and they're going to do it this way. And I'm like, yeah, that's not getting us the results we need. And I just look across the river at Pennsylvania, and we have people, we have like a governor who's cut down permitting times by 90%.
Mm,
Again, this it's doable. We have this ability to do this. I look at Minnesota. So yeah, you might say, oh, Texas is, a big solar state because they got a lot of sun. Minnesota, I think, is the best at community solar. So there are all of these opportunities for our state to do
yeah.
better. And I think if you're going to take on these challenges, um, you really need a governor that's going to actually take on these challenges. And that's what I'll do.
Yeah, I love that. I think, yeah, I mean, especially if you have a blue trifecta, you have an opportunity to become a laboratory and show the rest of the country this is what can happen. And I think you're right. We've seen it in Minnesota, we've seen it in Michigan. Yeah, we've seen some stuff in Pennsylvania allowing people to get federal jobs or state jobs without a college degree. There's all this really pro worker thing, strengthening unions. Yeah, it's kind of the sky's the limit. And right now, where there's so much gridlock in the federal government, I'm always kind of preaching this to the like states can do so much, and have a tremendous impact on the whole country, really.
I think it's where it's at. New Jersey's where it's at.
I love New Jersey. I grew up in Brooklyn, so I grew up spending a lot of time in New Jersey, on weekends and in the summer. So, is there anything you want to leave us with before we go? And I hope we can do this again. But is there a final thought you want to say to people who are from New Jersey who are watching this? Anything you want to go out on?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'd love to do it again. And to everyone in New Jersey, I'm so excited because I think the majority of the reason I know how important New Jersey is and I know we can make such a difference in this election is because of everyone in New Jersey. I mean, I just, from 2018 and the people that were so dedicated to making change and the number of those people that are still out there year after year after year fighting hard for what we care about and what we believe in. And New Jersey is just a state that doesn't take a lot of it doesn't take a lot of what from people.
Yeah,
There's probably not kids watching. Probably we don't have a lot of young kids watching this
yeah,
show.
yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, it's a state that's going to stand up. People aren't afraid. People are going to take this system on. I think they're kind of really there for the fight, and I'm so there for them. So I'm really excited about it, and thank you so
Oh
much.
my God. Thank you so much. This was great. I will post it on my feed as well so people can watch. And you guys go to, Mikie's website and check it out and sign up to volunteer or donate or whatever. That's just me saying that. That's not Mikie's not asking for that, but I
I
think you should. I think it's exciting. Huh?
I'm asking for that too. Thank
She's
you.
asking for that too. There you go. But seriously, thank you so much for talking to me, and thanks all for coming and listening, and we'll talk again soon.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, bye.